Hi there.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Gail. How are you?
I'm all right.
Hi, everybody. I just stopped by. I had sent a note to Gail. She probably hasn't even had it yet, but I just mentioned that I'm going to step back from the broadband committee and just wanted to say, you guys are
Oh,
doing such a great job and Gail is running it so smoothly. So
Indeed.
well, thank you so much, Kent, and thank you for all of your involvement and service over the last many years. I really appreciated the business acumen that you brought to it, and challenges and the questions to help us make better decisions. So thank you so much.
it's been a real pleasure. It's a fantastic team that everybody's together. And the note just basically says, I mean, my contribution is virtually nothing at this point, really. And so until such time, I'm available anytime. I said, keep on email for a while, just in case something comes up, especially with the contract. We worked as a team last time on the contract. So
We did. You were super helpful. I will reach out to you when we get further along because I'd love some more brains on that one, about how we're going to approach it and if we're going to extend it or go out to bid again. So I'll reach out to you. But again, go enjoy your life. Thank you. Thank you so much.
the summer here we go.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll see everybody around. It's not like I'm going anywhere.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Okay, do you want to continue to receive minutes from me?
Sure. For a while, the better I stay informed, the better. If
Okay.
something does come up, or particularly with the contract, and just keep abreast of what's going on.
Okay, all right. I'll continue to send you minutes then.
I really appreciate
A little light reading, light holiday reading there. That'll be good for you.
it. Have a good meeting, everybody.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Kent. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I hope you're all appreciating the mountain laurel, which is magnificent this year. I've never seen it as
I
beautiful.
am, yes.
Yeah,
So it's everywhere.
This is an on year for laurel, and it's off the charts.
It is. We thought it was
Yeah.
something we were doing, but
No, it usually it cycles every 2 to 3 years, and I knew last year was a down year, so I thought this year would be good, but it's even better than ever. I went for a long walk today out in the Quabbin. Well, not in the Quabbin area, but in the along Mount Mineral Ridge, and just to take a look at the laurel, which doesn't last very long, but it's quite something to watch. A lot of ticks too. Let me tell you, I have never seen the ticks this year. It's just been awful. I keep, I picked 4 or 5 of them off of me today, and I didn't. I don't know. Every time I go out into the garden, it's a risky proposition. Even very, very local and not traveling through the woods all that much, but they're just well, the wet weather has brought them out. But
Agreed. I've every time I go out, I've been pulling them off. I had a horrible experience in Petersham at one of the trustees' properties that had like a nice mowed path, but it was a grassy field. And I thought, well, I'll just stick to the middle. It'll be fine. I pulled off 21.
20.
Wow.
I was revolted. I was like,
oh, that's awful.
It was horrible. I'm never going back there again.
Oh no.
Yeah. They're like, my friend said she thinks I stepped on a nest, and they just they were like filling my shoes. Yeah, it was horrible.
Well, grassy areas are a problem in any case, but
Yeah.
But 21, I mean, that's quite a record.
Where was this?
Petersham at the trustees' property, like right in the center of town there. Yeah.
Apparently they do have nests. So
I found one. Yeah.
Wow.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, all right. Well, I think this is it. We are reducing more and more. Graham, you just missed it. Kent signed on for a moment to say goodbye to us. He's going to sign off on the committee.
Oh, okay.
But offered to help with the contract process, which I'm probably going to take him up on because he was really helpful with the, last round of that.
Was is he leaving the area or anything, or just?
No,
No.
he's ready to move on and doesn't feel like he's making a huge contribution these days. So just wants to, enjoy his summer. And yeah, we'll keep going with our kind of core group here. And looks like we're going to be able to keep meeting online until September.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's the how long the emergency order, and then they're working to extend it kind of forever.
That would be nice.
Which I'm thrilled about. It's unclear if it's going to be something where some people you have to have quorum on site, but you can stream in other people. All that's yet to be determined, but for the time being, we're fine. So yeah, I hope we keep going here. All right, and then other piece of news is our Zoom meeting has to end by about 6:45 tonight because it's going to be used by the school committee. So we're gonna zip right through the meeting tonight. That's what we're gonna do.
That's fine.
Yep. All right, first order of business is to approve the minutes from May 19th. I make a motion to do so.
Second.
Great.
And Jim, did you get?
Yes, I got your change. Yeah,
Yeah.
about the 10,325 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's in the mid. That's it. That's been applied.
Great.
Okay, so it's the minutes as amended.
Yep, minutes as
Nice.
amended with Steve's edit. Anything else about the minutes? No. All right. All in favor of approving as amended? Great. Hut report. What do we got going on, Graham?
Yes, there were about 50 help ticket things. About half of them, I reckon, were either the DHCP addressing issues caused, about a dozen, and then on those 2 occasions during the month, and then the other big one was when our big crash didn't happen till June, but there were 2 of those IP addressing things, and so most of it was that was half of all of them, and the rest was just average. There was one. I had a question about something. Phone. I can't remember what the question was, but anyhow, yeah, all good. The Huts, as we saw during town meeting, Huts just bopping along fine. So
great. I was there on. Well, here's a funny story. So we had an issue about a month ago when the DHCP issues were happening, and we lost connection. And Matt Crocker entered the hut, said the alarm wasn't on, and it should have a cell backup. So I called Simply Safe. They ran some diagnostics. They said, you have an old base station whose cell module installed in it is bad. We're gonna send you a new one. So they sent me a new one. And so during town meeting on Saturday, I unplugged the old unit. I plugged in the new unit, ran a test cycle, did the test, everything worked great. After town meeting, I took the debris, the box, the old unit, and I got in my car and I drove down to Amherst to go do some grocery shopping. And I hear a voice from the back seat start talking to me. Lost connection, and starts making this heinous sound. And I realized that I had thought when I plugged in the new unit, oh, this is just plug and play. This is so easy, because the old unit that whole time was connected until I physically drove away with it. And so it was a funny moment. So anyway, the next day I went back and fiddled with it for quite a while. if you go into the hut, you will notice the base station is now moved to the south corner up near, I don't know if you saw this, Graham, when you were in there, because I realized even though the cell module was working, we couldn't get a cell signal out because it was, down low, almost on the floor.
Yeah.
And it's a concrete hut.
Yeah.
So I, I found the strongest signal was on the south side.
Yeah, looking for signal.
Yeah. And ran some tests with Wi-Fi completely turned off in there, and it was able to message out. So anyway, a bit more of a process than I expected, but it's all set up. And like I said, the unit is now placed in the back up near the ceiling instead of near the floor.
So, Gail, was the trouble with the old one? Was there really a problem with the old unit, or was it just that it wasn't getting a cell signal?
Yeah, that's a good question.
We don't know. I didn't question it. I'm like, I'm not undoing everything I just did. So unfortunately, we produced a base station that's now going in a landfill either way. But I figure that, part of the process was working with Simply Safe also to do a firmware update. So it's the newest model. It's, all.
That's always good to be
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And the police didn't chase you out of Shutesbury?
Police didn't chase me. I was like, oh my God, what is going on?
Someone stole the hut. Get them.
Yeah. But all our systems worked well. Like Crocker actually called the hut when I was fiddling around in there because they saw it manifested itself as a power outage because the base station completely lost connection. So anyway, that was the hut.
They would have been worried there'd been an insurrection during the town meeting.
Right. So what else is going on? So all the Juniper hut problems have been, as far as Crocker knows, eradicated through the new hardware and the firmware updates. We know about the outage that was caused for eight or so hours on Friday night. It was really unfortunate. I've talked to a couple of you about it, but it was caused by scheduled work at Crown Castle that they never notified Crocker that it was happening. And so they physically cut some lines in order to do their maintenance. So they've figured out the communication problem, why they didn't get notified. And Crocker lost all their circuits in Western Massachusetts. We were out, Mount Washington was out, and Crocker's tech support was out. So they did actually have backup tech support that's not connected to the Springfield circuit. They do have some agents that go through Amazon Web Services, and those agents are able, no matter what, they're able to connect. The problem was none of those agents were assigned on Friday night. So it was just like this perfect storm. So they didn't, Crown Castle didn't notify them. There just happened to be none of the Amazon Web Service agents assigned that were on that night. So they were able to get their other agents up and running in about an hour by going through New York instead. But anyway, they've identified that vulnerability.
Gail, just a quick, what is the date on the other Crown Castle outage? I just want that for the minutes because people might want to know that.
Friday, June 4th from like 10 a.m. to 5 a.m.
And everyone will probably get an email, right? Like I did.
Right. And Crocker has already sent that out. You will get a refund on your bill. I mean, it'll be like $1, but still, it's something.
There's still a lot of things that are puzzling about this. And one of them is Crown Castle is a big operation, that they would do scheduled maintenance that would involve cutting a cable and knocking things out for 8 hours, notified or not. it's one thing if they're unplugging a unit and plugging a new one in, it's going to be like, a minute to make this switch. Okay, you deal with that. But if it's a lengthy job like this, and it really surprised me that big outfit like Crown Castle didn't have a redundant line that they could have run something through.
Well, it might have been the cables itself. They've been replacing all those towers, right?
What was it?
So
Yeah,
all the high tension,
yeah.
whatever
Yeah,
you call them.
They've been stringing new towers and new, and I noticed that because I drive underneath them on the way to Greenfield, that also included, a new fiber line way up at the very top. So
It's a different line.
yeah,
The
Oh,
Crown Castle one runs on its national grids line. It's the old New England power line that runs the Deerfield Valley and across. That was rebuilt about 20 years ago, and then they're not working on that now. It's
oh, really?
the lines down to Amherst that are the ones that are being rebuilt now.
I see.
Yeah, I think we did see a copy of what Crown Castle told HGE in their we're doing maintenance. I can't remember the details of it, but HGE did have they had a workaround. They didn't lose their customers. So somehow or other, it sounds like Crocker really needs some other version of backup. That some redundancy that we have at our hut. We have MBI and we have Crown Castle. It seems like Crocker needs to be looking at that aspect.
did Leverett stay up all throughout this?
HG had no problem at all, and Leverett was up for the whole time. Yeah.
Wow.
Because they knew it was coming. They appropriately switched to their backup.
Wow.
So yeah.
Interesting.
But our backup from didn't work either.
No, the explanation is, and I did not know this, is that it's not actually a physical connection at our Shutesbury Town Hall location to MBI. In order to work, that connection has to go through Springfield,
Through Crocker.
through Crocker,
Yeah. Yeah.
through
That doesn't
Crocker.
surprise
So
me.
the same thing would have happened if we had been located in the New Salem hut or the Leverett hut. It would not have made a difference.
But
Because-
Gail, it was working. The MBI, as you pointed out, the MBI connection was working from Crocker in Springfield when initially, before we had Crown Castle. So we know that thing MBI from our hut to Crocker works. So they got the piece they didn't have, I think, is they said that their core became isolated. They didn't have any internet to put into our MBI circuit, it sounds like. So,
Right.
That's a huge gap in their system. And when they've solved it, they got to tell us how they've solved it, and then we've got to test it.
Yeah, I don't think that was the case. I mean, and MBI was unaffected. It was that they couldn't hook into it because the Crown Castle fiber cut just affected all of their operations. I don't have the detailed technicality of it, but it's that the fiber maintenance took down their whole core circuit, and somehow the MBI has to feed into that. So when that was gone, there's nowhere for it to go.
Yeah, I think they had no water to pour in the end of the pipe, but the pipe,
Right.
we know the pipe runs from our hut
Yes.
to their office, to their 1 Federal Street. And we know that it did work when there was something to pour in the other end. So I think, like you said at the weekend, that they've identified a huge inadequacy that they've got to fix.
Yeah, and a little bit later on in the meeting, I'll talk about some of the next steps of what they're gonna they're doing what they're gonna do, but there's other things that we need to do to prevent this in the future. But before we go there, that's financial report. Steve, anything to report
No.
besides an excellent job at town meeting getting our budget passed?
Thank you. Well, our current balance is 175,242. I'm projecting a fiscal year end of fiscal year balance, the end of this month, of around 171,000. Maybe if some last minute bills come in and be a little under 170, or about 210,000, depending on when the next payment from Crocker, when the EFT clears the bank. Crocker makes the payment late in the month. They don't make the payment until June 30th, and it doesn't clear till July 1st. Then that money gets credited on the town accounting on the next fiscal year. This is one of the ridiculous aspects of the enterprise fund accounting, that we're either going to have a higher retained earnings, but start the fiscal year off at zero, or we'll, first day of the fiscal year, we'll have $39,000 in our account. Yeah, it's a system we're operating under. But either way, we'll have very significant retained earnings, at least 170,000, which a year from now at town meeting, we can ask to have applied to the band payment in August of 2022, which at that point we should be able to pay that debt off completely.
Fantastic.
Gail, as long as I've got you, did you see my email about Simply Safe not being able to access?
Yeah, this is just getting so painful, Steve. Let me put it on my list to in the like on the 10th of the month or so. Let me just run off a invoice, and I'll just email it to you every day every month on the 10th.
Okay.
I think these we've tried to solve them numerous times, and it because you log in so seldomly, you can't remember your device. And
yeah, I mean, I was just in last month, and so,
yeah, and it only, it takes me 3 minutes maybe to do
unless
that.
Maybe it's that new the new Simply Safe.
It could have been the base station. Yeah, we never know.
If you could get the current one to me quickly, I want to take it up to town hall, take the bills to town hall tomorrow, because Friday is now a holiday. It's Juneteenth is being celebrated on Friday. If I don't get those bills in there soon enough in the drop box, it doesn't get to Gail Weiss in time, and so
No worries, I'll do it tonight after the meeting.
Okay.
Steve, could you give me that, the number that you started off with, right? The first number you gave me.
175,242.
And that's going to become retained earnings. So
Well, that's the current balance right now. So
we have a 175,242 in our account
right now, yeah, there are some bills to be paid. So projecting the fiscal year end balance of around 170,000, which will become retained earnings.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm don't worry about it. Continue.
Okay, all right.
I'm just sort of.
That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll move on to manager report. So a couple of things here. One is I want to have a discussion about how we're handling new installations. Our current policy is that a new installation has to, or a homeowner has to cover everything involved with that new installation. So if obviously they cover everything from the curb to the home, and that includes if they need trenching, if they need aerial, whatever it is, it's on the homeowner. We subsidize that with a $300 offset. But if a new MST is needed because we've run out of ports in their area, we're going to pretty much always have enough spare fiber unless zoning laws get changed radically in Shutesbury. But sometimes there's not a spare port for a new home. And we've had 2 situations where this has happened already. And if that's the case, the policy is to make the customer pay for that. So they have to pay for the new MST, for the splice, and for the testing. So we just had an issue at the new Habitat for Humanity home, where they were given a quote for installation to cover from the curb to the home, and everything's good. They signed it. They're like, great, we'll pay for it. And then later we found out that there is no fiber spliced to the available port in the MST. So here's a situation where there is an MST, but there's not fiber spliced there. It's just a spare port. So that needed to happen before the installation takes place. So I've made an executive decision, like, we're not going to go back to the customer and say, well, actually, it's going to be more than what we quoted for you. You have to pay this extra. That's not right. We've already given them a quote. They've already signed it. But it's made me think about, I'm wondering if that, like, this should actually be our policy going forward. Installations are already very expensive. And for like new home builds, they're not going to happen very often. It's not hard to separate, like parse out these expenses, because all that MST and splicing work has to happen before installation day anyway. So Tim pointed out that it's really work on our network, like our mainline network. It's not really like going to the homeowner. It's something that is on our main line. So the gotcha thing I would see here is if there's a multi-unit development that ever happens in Shutesbury, like, let's just say, there's like, a 15 apartment complex or something, or a place like Orchard Hill that gets developed. So we could add into the policy that this only applies for single family homes, not multi-dwelling units. Those will be dealt with individually. So I guess what I'm suggesting is we make a policy change to installations, that if there's any mainline work that needs to happen to make that installation, so whether it be MST or splicing work or running new fiber, that's on the MLP. The customer only covers anything from MST to home, including in-home. Thoughts?
Yeah, that was my initial take as soon as you described this situation, that, well, gee, that work, the splice to the MST, that's our network. That's not a drop to the home. So I think that is legitimate for us to pay, and that's probably the way we should do it, and that the customer pays for the drop to the home and all associated costs with that drop.
But this would be for single homeowner installations, as opposed to an apartment complex or something like that, where they would need many more than just one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll see if I can word this.
Worry about this apartment complex.
Well, I mean, it would be good to distinguish between the two, I think, because I mean, if someone was putting in a development, I mean, I can think of a few situations where that might have been an issue in the past and could be an issue in the future. I don't know, but
Yeah.
but just for a brand new home on some street in in Shutesbury, where we have to screw around with the MST situation, then that should be on us. But the rest of it, if it was more of a development kind of situation where there was another street, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But that I think should be on the developer as opposed to on us. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, well, here's another instance, the solar farms, right?
Oh boy.
Right. So
Well, they
The
should
solar
do,
farm, that's a
they should
different
do their
beast.
own
That's
MSDs.
that's a business install, and I think the rules can be different for businesses.
Yeah.
right, but we should spell that out.
Yeah.
And in
Yes,
in
absolutely.
this. So
So I think this is fine. I think single family home, I think duplexes probably are also in that category. Duplexes are going to be often lower on the lower income side of things, and I don't really want to
Well,
penalize.
it's also typically a
Penalize them.
single drop to a duplex.
True.
So
There's one drop, but they're more likely to have to upgrade the MST because there's actually two.
Yeah, they're
plugs-
still
Right.
there. Right.
two
Exactly.
plugs
There's still
into
two
the
feeds.
MST.
but the drop is usually a one drop line going in.
Right. Yeah. No.
Well, that might even be true for it might be one drop line for a 15 unit apartment building too. That's not the point.
But it's a much bigger MST. Yes.
But it's going to have a big impact on the MST. Exactly.
Yeah, the utility going along the main line of any utility, they typically, they'll go one pole and they won't charge you for that, but they won't go, they do charge for extending the system. So
Yeah, why don't you write up a proposal? We don't have in front of us what our policy is right now.
This is true.
And so why don't you pull out what our policy is now and write up a proposed change to it to incorporate what we're talking about here, that, network upgrades for single family or duplex residential properties, but for commercial properties, it's that would take care of the solar farms. And for new subdivision or something, because we got to think how we word this. So why don't you start working on wording for that? I don't think we need this tomorrow. We've already agreed for this case at hand how to handle it, and then come back to us next month with the proposed wording change for the installation policy.
sounds great. I have a draft going.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Good suggestion.
One quick question. What would you, for the wording of the policy, what would you call the entity that's the builder in a case like that? You know what I mean? Would you just
Developer.
Developer.
Yeah.
developer?
is the right
Okay,
word.
that's a good word.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, we probably gonna need to come up with a cutoff, if somebody's building 2 new homes.
That's fine. Sure.
We'll pick over
And
this.
where you call that cutoff is, a little.
With the draft, we'll be able to think about that, won't we? That's, yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks for your comments on the annual review document. It looks pretty good. Nothing really we need to discuss about that. Craig, thanks for your compliment. We will, we being the royal we, I will make it into an electronic survey document and send an email out to the group to complete it. And we'll do this every June. I think we should do it every June before the end of our fiscal year.
I read the document, looked fine to me, the 2 suggestions on it. And so, I did read it and think it looks good as it stands.
Great. Okay.
So Gail, regarding the legalese we were just talking about a minute ago,
Mhm.
you know Chuck Damari, right?
Mhm.
You might want to send it by him and ask him to give his input, because he's a lawyer and he's been on our zoning board. So he probably knows all the words. Just see, it's just a suggestion. You don't have to
Okay.
consider it.
All right. Yeah, I'll think about it. Our policies are not legalese policies, most of them.
Well, you want to make the reason you write them legalese is so you don't get stuck in trouble.
That's true.
We don't
Yeah.
want a developer taking us to court.
Yeah, right.
And that's what I get worried about when we set a number of, if it's more than so many houses. And that's like, so how do you defend a policy like that?
Yeah.
Right. A developer is going to get a lawyer and they're going to say, well, this says this here and therefore your policy is moot, right?
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Could
I'll,
also-
yeah.
That we could check and see what Leverett does on this. Our fallback to so many things.
Right. Well, for them, I does it apply though? Because well, I guess it would be the same situation for new ones, because although they installed to everybody, there's places that didn't exist when they
Yeah,
built.
we don't know what they're
Yeah.
doing going forward on new.
Yeah.
They've got to have something up there to plug into.
Yeah.
The drop. So yeah, they either have to go into a splice case or go back along the line, but I assume they have MSTs, right? I haven't looked closely at Leverett. I think they have MSTs too.
Do they have MSTs though, if it's an active E?
Yeah,
Is
I
it
mean,
per-
yeah, you've got to plug fiber into something.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's either that or you splice in a splice case, which is much less convenient. So.
All right, I'll have a draft by next one. And we are just whipping through this meeting. So last thing to talk about, unless anyone has any other items, is how to handle our upcoming contract with Crocker. And I'm not going to get into the details too much because I think that we should have an executive session for that one. And we don't have the details yet to discuss, but there's several issues and things that we need to look at for this contract, whether it's a bid contract or if it's a contract extension. So the big one, of course, is how are we going to get our backhaul? Who are we going to get it from, and where are their circuits going to be located? Because the way that we need to fix the problem that happened on June 4th is to get our backhaul from truly diverse geographic locations. So what that would look like is getting, say, Crown Castle still out of Springfield, don't change anything there, but get Verizon out of Boston or New York City, or maybe it's Albany, I don't know. Anyway, New York. And so we have a redundant core circuit, because right now the problem is everything goes through Springfield. So Crocker says you need to get another diverse location for that. They have received new competitive pricing from Crown Castle. The cheap of bandwidth, or the cost of bandwidth, keeps coming down and down, which is great. So we're locked in until 2022 with Crown Castle for the 3-year term that we signed on with them to buy backhaul. But apparently they're open to changing the terms of that contract. And that would be approximately $1,200 a month for 10 gig. Right now we're paying $1,470-ish for that. And it's actually costing us $3,500, but Crocker's picking up half of that bill. So it's pretty dramatic. And then there's a similar deal for Verizon, another 10 gigs. So it's a little ridiculous that we would be paying for 10 gigs, but there's a possibility that it wouldn't cost us anything more, or not much more than what we're paying now.
So Gail, Crown Castle is reducing their price by like 50%, is it? I mean,
Yep.
wow, that's yeah. All right.
Yeah. Yep. A catch to get this kind of pricing, you have to lock into a 5-year contract. I've already told Crocker we can't do that. For a municipality, right? The limit is 3 years, so we can't do that. But Crocker could, right? Crocker could sign this contract with Verizon or Crown Castle for a 5-year, kind of not resell, I don't even know what the word is, but let us use that bandwidth for our main backhaul and redundant backhaul, and then maybe also use it with their other customers.
Something that's confusing to me about this, did the town of Shutesbury actually sign a contract with Crown Castle? Because
No.
bill for the backhaul comes from Crocker.
Yeah.
We don't pay Crown Castle anything. We pay Crocker, and it's a line item on the Crocker bill for the Crown Castle backhaul, also for the MBI backhaul.
And Crocker is Crown Castle's customer, not us.
Right.
Correct. So Crocker would have to take, in my mind, Crocker is going to have to take on that risk themselves, that to do whatever they need to do with Crown Castle and Verizon to work a contract structure that's going to work for them, and then basically have a line item like they always have in our contract, which just says we'll provide you something like at least 10 gig of mainline backhaul and at least 5 gig of backup backhaul from these 3 redundant or disparate geographic areas. So, something like that.
And Gail, that would be what they'd have to say if they were extending the contract for one
year. Or I mean, it also applies if we go out to bid again. That's going to be we can price or not price it, but we can put that in the contract that's a requirement, and then they can structure it however they want on their end as long as they meet our requirement.
Did I miss anything important? Someone was at the door while I was gone. I'm sorry.
No, just talking about the backhaul options and how that would play into the contracts.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know how much you have to put into the notes, Jim, except, something like we discussed,
Okay.
upcoming contracts, backhaul options, redundancy.
Okay, I'll do that. All right.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one thing we need to consider in the contract. Who are we getting the backhaul from? Where are the circuits located? Now, item 2 is, can we share or sell any of this excess bandwidth with others? This isn't really a Shutesbury question because, again, it's our contract with the backhaul provider is not with us, but it's something for Crocker to think about. It's kind of like, hey, can you give us a good deal and then go make another deal with maybe Westfield or, other surrounding towns, because they have no backup options in my understanding.
I remember when Leverett was first up and running, and there was a meeting there Peter DeRico had, and Matt Crocker was there, and Matt was explaining how the backhaul was working, that Crocker had a contract with the Chicopee school system to provide their service. And
they were totally double dipping.
Exactly. They're running like 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that's the low demand time in Leverett. And then right as the school is shutting down, was when people are coming home from work in Leverett, and Leverett demand's going up. And so I'm thinking, well, this is a pretty good deal for you, Matt, that you're able to sell the same product to 2 different people.
Yeah, but I mean, kudos for them for, doing what they need to do for a business perspective. I don't
Yeah.
I when I heard that and people were like mad about it, I'm like, what's the big deal? Like everyone's getting what they want, and
Yeah.
it's
And it shows there's precedent for this and
yeah.
history that, so.
Yeah, and when we had talked about this years ago, I thought that it was technically impossible to share bandwidth without sharing a common ISP, but Crocker says that's not the case, that it's going to require reworking our network and installing some special hardware to split the bandwidth that comes in, but it could be done. So it might be a really nice partnership with Westfield Gas and Electric, or Wired West or surrounding towns like Leverett, because in my meeting that I had with Graham and the Leverett team, when we were discussing this a couple of weeks ago about, hey, can we just like hook up as a residential customer to get our backup here? You're supplying a gig. They don't have enough. Unlike us, they're only buying a couple gigs. So they do not have any excess. They could not support us in the case of an outage. So anyway, this might be beneficial to them too.
And the other tricky bit is just where two different jurisdictions are sharing the same 10 gig, say, that someone has to administer that switch. And is it Westfield? Is it Crocker? There's a little bit of somehow or other one of the sharing entities has to be in charge of the switch, which is an interesting sort of just an agreement that they have to come to. So
right. All right. So another thing that I want to talk about, I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but people are still not thrilled with Crocker's tech support. This model of calling into a answering service and then waiting and getting a call back. My sense is that there's only like maybe 1 or 2 technicians who can actually help customers there at any time. And this came up because 2 people came up to me at town meeting and complained about, thank you so much. We love the broadband service. This is just so great that we have this in town. And Crocker's tech support is not good.
was that when they totally were out of service, or this is just
No, this was unrelated to that and I understand it from a customer service perspective, for you to call and then talk to an operator and explain your whole problem and then hang up the phone and then wait around for, they've gotten better. It's like, it's less than an hour, but wait around for the technician to call back and then you explain the whole thing again and then you finally get help. It's just,
Have these
it's
people
okay.
called AT&T or Verizon recently?
Yeah. One improvement would be that you.
I'm not defending Crocker.
I don't want that to be our benchmark.
I know. I agree.
My
One
experience.
suggestion to Crocker would be that you don't have to explain the whole problem the first time. You just call the answering service and say, I have a problem. Crocker, call me back. I mean, that might be, because that is horrible when you go through all this sort of stuff and it's irrelevant because they can't hand it on and it's a waste of time. So that would be, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Steve. What yours?
Well, I was just to say my experience has been very good, but they may recognize my name and get back to me quick.
Well, I in support of Crocker, if you've ever tried to deal with OTT and Leverett, boy, Crocker begins to really shine by comparison. I've just had awful experiences. When I want to switch a router, and going, it's just been hell. It takes hours and talking to answering services and everything else. I am far more supportive of Crocker than I am, for example, of OTT, which is a comparison that is, I think, an important one to make.
Yeah.
I'm not
into AT&T or Verizon.
Yeah. I mean, they're in a different league altogether, but
yeah, they're another
OT&T is basically in our league. So
Here surely is another problem to it, and that is it's classic that if I have a Crocker problem, then I can't be at home I can't be waiting at home for a phone call from them because I won't work. I don't have cell phone service. And so that actually, when you think about it, for me, I've walked up the hill to cell phone service. I don't want to be standing out there in the winter with my cell phone. So there is this interesting sort of like, the callback has to be really, really quick, and there should be no story that you have to tell them. It would be, if you're talking to Tim Otto about it, point out this thing that it's not easy for me to be somewhere where I can get called back, and I'd probably, I won't be there if it's going to take 15 minutes, or I might not be there, especially as January. So yeah. What do you reckon? The answering service just sort of says, okay, got it. Someone will call you back, within some amount of minutes, and don't tell me anything. Tell the Crocker person. Would that be, that would have to improve it, right?
Yeah, this is what are the ideas? So that's a great idea of no explanation, in trying to get that callback time to less than 15 minutes, like very, very quick. Another one is having actual technicians instead of an answering service answer the phone. Another one.
That's expensive, and then that still backs up. What happens when he's on another call? That one's not very.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
But primarily it could go to a technician, and then if they're backed up, an operator could be like, it's going to be 30 minutes or 45 minutes before you get a call back on this one. Another idea is offering premium business service, where individuals could pay extra to have better access to expert technicians.
Excellent idea.
The reason the reason it's a little weird, but the reason I'm throwing it out there is because I've asked some people about how much would you pay for better service? How much would it be? And I've heard everything from about $10 to $20 extra per month.
Wow.
Right. I was shocked. So the people who I've got complaints from said they really want to see that happen, but I don't want to put that on everybody because we want to keep this affordable. So anyway,
yeah, and
it's an idea.
Is Crocker? I don't think Crocker is going to go out and hire extra techs if we do this. So if by paying extra, some people get put at the head of the line, then everybody else is going to be even slower.
Steve, but they do have a tech on call, and you would end up with that phone number if you were paying the premium. So, you would be paging the number that will really, So yeah, it could. It
So
could work.
Wired West has always had this policy that there are business accounts. They generally cost a lot more, and you get, I don't remember what are all the various things that one can get. And of course, Jim Draw's point is, why leave that money on the table? If these people are willing to pay the extra money, we should get it.
And Crocker will be happy to provide an extra service for an extra charge. Yeah, I mean, they will be able to work out the business model that'll be fine for them. So
we could, if they want to do this, we could stay out of it completely, right? This is, it's not like there's
wait. But if they're going to charge more, we want to.
Yeah, that's true.
We want to cut. We want to cut.
Well, yes, and you will want to cut, because they will be people who will call you more often, because
it's true.
If anything's wrong, they'll be saying, "Hey, I'm your business class." So yeah.
Well, another important thing for us to think about as we move towards going out to bid again is that if we just let Crocker set up the rules for this, then when we go out to bid and we don't go with Crocker, now all of a sudden this business is going to have to completely come up with new everything, right? I think that if we're going to offer a business class service, that should be something that we are offering, and then we make sure our provider provides it. And then when we go out to bid again, we have to say, all right, you have to be able to meet this standard.
I think your business, I think your provider will be the crowd doing it. And if you have a description of what the performance is, then you would just put it in the next bid as well. You would just say, and we have this business class. They'll be happy to bid on it because it's, it's more money. I mean, bigger service.
Yeah. All right. So those are just ideas that I'll keep in mind as we
Sure.
start talking about this. It is it's going to be a process because we're going to have to decide if we kind of how deeply do we want to launch into discussions with Crocker about a contract extension versus just saying no, we're just going to go out to bid again. So I've already told them that the only way we're going to do an extension is if you can do a price reduction as part of it. We won't entertain it unless that's included.
And what are the legalities of this from a town? What does Becky say? Do we have the option of extending? Is that, I assume we do.
As far as I know, I think we talked about this 3 years ago of like, well, what happens after 3 years? And I think that is an option, but I don't know how you go about it. Like, how much can you change the contract to do an extension, or does it have to be an extension of your exact same thing, but you can, just lower the price? I don't know. So that's another thing to look into.
The contract was extendable, and I think the contract says mutually agreeable things are on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Did they sound like it was a possibility?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I think they're highly motivated. We have a very good working relationship with them, and I think that the onboarding was certainly a huge lift to get everyone up and running. But now, well, minus like technical glitches, but that take down the whole network. Besides that, everything works pretty well. We were watching the support tickets come in. It, they're not getting hundreds and hundreds of tickets coming in from Shutesbury. It's really leveled off, and
30 a month if they don't do anything wrong.
So I think this could be mutually beneficial if we can work out favorable terms to do an extension.
I think we should keep in mind that they need us. They started out with Leverett, and Leverett dumped them. If they start out with us and we dump them, it makes them look bad. So I think we have leverage here. We have power here, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they are really trying to please us. I mean, I know about the Leverett, like the Leverett problems that they, but that was earlier in the game, and I won't get into the reasons why.
Regardless of whether they were dumped for good reason or not, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Other towns are going to be nervous about hiring them on if their first two customers didn't renew.
Why I think they're going to go after other towns as well. I am
sure they will. Yeah.
I'm sure they will. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, and this healthy competition is great. So some of these types of conversations we should hold for executive session.
Yeah,
sure. Yes.
Remember everything that we're saying here is recorded. So I'll keep you up to date on the details as they come. I'm kind of letting Crocker take the lead on this of giving us some different options, and then figuring out how far down this road we want to go of a renewal. But like I said, I think it could be good, and we definitely want to look at the potential.
And Gail, I would suggest when, questions come up about just what we can do in a contract or not, talk to Donna McNichol.
Yes.
And my take is you can just contact her, because unlike any other department in town, we have a separate line item in our budget for legal costs. So, the town covers the legal costs for all the other departments. So that's why other department heads would have to go through Becky to get Becky authorized talking to Donna, because the town just has a certain legal budget, but since we, if we can pay Donna out of our budget, so I don't think there'd be any reason for you not just to contact her directly.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll just ask, can we have a 15 to 20-minute conversation about how we can structure and work with this upcoming contract to start this off, and then probably have more conversations over the next year.
And Gail, in that Leverett MLP meeting we went to, I noticed on their minutes that they seem to just have a routine line at the bottom to go into executive session if needed. You might want to start putting that on our meeting minutes, just so that we do have the option to go into executive session if we want to talk about this, because otherwise we'll always be in the situation where we don't talk about it and hedge. So.
Great. I will start putting that on our agenda as just a always item.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. All right. That is it for me. Does anyone have anything else?
Any update on the
Oh, yes, the EBBP. Thank you.
yeah, I couldn't think of the acronym, but
The tongue twister acronym.
yeah.
So, yes, I did reach out to Natalie Blay. She, in turn, helped me get in touch with Jim McGovern. So I spoke to one of his staffers, signed a release of information form. Before they can help anyone, you have to sign this form so they can talk about you with who they need to talk about because it's a federal issue now. So they are on it. Right after, I don't know if it was something that Jim McGovern's office did or was just a coincidence, but the day after, Crocker was approved and USAC said, oh no, they're good. But they're still not on the website. So we're closer. And the staffer said that he promised he would stay on it until it's done. So Kathy from Crocker's checking with him every day. Yeah, I feel like I've pushed the levers we have, and it is sad to me that we've lost a month, but we did our best.
So it's the FCC is where the problem is, not getting there? No.
It's USAC, the Universal Service Administration Company, something like that. Universal Services. Hold on, I have to look up what that acronym means.
Well, and so are they a contractor for the federal government? Is that?
They're the governmental organization that administrates the Lifeline and this EBBP thing. So they're connected to the FCC somehow. I don't know what the relationship is.
So they administer both Lifeline and the new one.
Yep. Universal Service Administrative Company. Oh, here's an interesting factoid. USAC is not a federal government agency or a department or a government-controlled corporation. So they must be one of those quasi-private relationships.
Or a completely private business that is contracted.
Yeah, they say they are under the direction of the FCC, though.
Yeah.
USAC administers the Universal Service Fund under the direction of the Federal Communications Commission.
Well.
Yep. So that's it. Anything else?
a bit of good news on the Hut list of there were no the month before we'd had 5 drops that got knocked down, but there was 0 drops chewed or knocked down last month. So that was kind of good to see.
Good. Good. Oh, and Graham, I did give the hub a little sweep and shook out the mats in there because while I was waiting things to update and upload. There's a lot of pollen in there.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will talk then. When is our next meeting? It is July 21st.
Okay.
The Klein device.
Oh, thank you, Jim. I had a note on here and I totally forgot it. Sorry about that. All right. So, Jim, do you want to explain what that is and why you think it would be useful to get?
Well, it really is for $160. It would give us the ability to, or give me the ability, and Graham as well, because we would probably be the two who are using it, the ability to find faulty Ethernet cables during service calls, and I mean cables of any sort for that matter. This would give us the ability to, to test all this out properly. And I can think of a couple of service calls that I've done in the past where this sure would have been handy. But there are workarounds for it, and if we don't want to spend the money, that's fine too. But I've got one coming up that this tool would be very helpful. But it's really your decision as to whether you should purchase.
Describe an example of it. Yeah, if a Cat6 cable at the far end of the house, you plug in at one end, you unattach it, and you put a far end device in. I assume it's got a far end device, right? And
yeah, you put something on the other end.
Yeah, and it tells you the cable is good and no mouse has bit any of the pairs. So it's definitely useful to be able to verify that a cable's.
I've got one of those from when I used to make my own cables. You can pick them up on Amazon if you check around for 10, 15 bucks. They're not very much money.
Well, there's some cheap ones, but and I'm
You
not
want
sure
something
which.
that's fancier.
Well,
All the one I do, all mine does is just connectivity. Is this pin connected to that pin? If the quality is bad, it doesn't tell me about that.
The Klein device tells you how long the cable is, and
I see.
I
Okay,
mean, it's a much more sophisticated device.
that's a whole nother beast. Okay.
Yeah, it's a whole nother level. It's what Collins and others carry around in their truck, when they go on certain, when they are out doing wiring up people's homes and stuff like this. I'm sure that Certex folks have one too.
I think it's worth the money, and you can even test a patch cord that you're suspect about. It sounds like Craig's got one of them. But yeah, I'd say $160 is it'll be occasionally a useful thing. And
but just to understand, this is just something that's used for in-house work. It's nothing that's testing anything in the network or the drop. Is that correct?
Right.
No, it's not a fiber device. It's not a fiber device. It's what happens inside the home.
it doesn't test Ethernet. It just tests the cable. So you unplug it from Ethernet to verify the cable.
Okay.
Yeah. How many calls are you going out these days, Jim? I just haven't seen any in like 6 months. I don't know if you're going out and I don't see them or.
Well, clearly there are fewer and fewer of them, and that's one of the reasons why I say if it's not appropriate to spend the money, then that's fine too. I can always usually find ways around it, but I have one coming up shortly that this would be particularly handy. But again, it's not a crucial kind of a thing. It would be nice to have it.
Yeah, who's it for? Which customer?
This is for Melody Chartier and Mary Jo. They've been having a lot of trouble with the phone
Are they still
lines.
having problems?
Yeah,
Jeez Louise.
I don't know what is going on, and Jory's been in the middle of it, and I've been getting all these emails, and my last one was, well, if, we may be getting this device and that may help us trace out stuff that's in the home. And it may not be a problem in the home at all. It seems that the problem is due, to our network. And it's a problem that may not have been fixed by the new service. I got the phone thing is going, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
At any rate, it's complicated.
Yeah, I mean, this is maybe something we should just have Crocker do. No, or
Well-
they don't.
Oh, God, hold on.
Wiring.
Jim is going to go smash his answering machine.
I
We
mean,
just have
this
to
is
wait.
a service. This is a service we're offering our customers only because these guys want to do it, right? If we didn't have Jim, we would just say, "I'm sorry, you're out of luck."
Yeah. Wiring in the house is always beyond the service.
And
Right.
Jim, when you first sent something out, there was a choice. There was one unit that was like $2,000, and then there was
Yeah.
it was 160. So you're saying we don't need the really high priced one. The $160 one would be perfectly adequate.
Yeah, well, the $2,000 one is made by Fluke, and Fluke is the standard for. I mean, I have a Fluke multimeter, and I wouldn't leave home without it. It's a great device, and there are none better out there. But it's very pricey stuff, and worth every penny. If you really were using it day in and day out, I would get a Fluke. But the Klein is sort of the next level down, so to speak. And then there are the really, the $15 ones you can get on eBay, but those don't do any of the sorts of things that the Klein device does.
No. The main thing, therefore, is making sure you connected the wires correctly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
The $2,000 unit is for certifying category 6, category 5.
Yeah.
You're actually giving a test and saying yes, this passes, and you get contractors to, it's how you prove that the 10,000 jacks in your building are all pass the test. So
My feeling is bring a 50-foot patch cable, go around that segment. If everything works, then you say, "I'm sorry, you have to call an electrician." And
that's
figure
why
out.
I have a 50-foot patch cord.
Right.
That's exactly the reason. You run it through the house. Yeah.
Right.
But I don't know, Jim, would your job be easier having this?
Sure.
Well, when the issue turns up, it sure would be handy to have it.
Yeah,
Because
I
then
mean,
you can say,
I
well,
just
it's in
buy
the
it.
wall and you got to hire some, and you got to, and this
I
is
mean-
why you're having trouble. And
Let's buy it.
Yeah, I mean, for
Okay.
$160, I'd say.
Even if
Money.
it saves on 1 or 2 service calls, it's paid for itself.
Exactly right.
Or
Exactly
even
right.
if it's not really paying for itself, if Jim is time, even though we're not paying Jim for doing this, if he can get a job done easier,
Yeah.
there's a benefit to us there. I
I'm
just
okay on
would
that.
say, think about how you buy it, because if you-
Home Depot and the town's credit card.
yeah, you put it on the town's credit card, then it's fine.
Yeah.
So.
Right. So,
work with Becky on that.
yeah. What do you need for me for that, Jim? Should I just send an email to Becky and copy you on it saying, we've approved a purchase of this up to $180 for this device?
Yes, I was just thinking of writing her and saying, Becky, can you call Home Depot? And because Home Depot doesn't stock these, but they will get them in a day or so. And we do want to put it on the town's credit card to avoid the taxes. And then the billing will be in the system. And Steve, I guess that'll make it somewhat easy to transfer it over to Gail, et cetera, and do all those kinds of bookkeeping things.
Yes, just copy me on any invoice paperwork, anything like that. So.
Jim,
Okay.
Jim, if Gail writes the email, then Becky won't have to phone 2 more people or whatever.
Yeah.
So you still might. Gail, probably you are the best.
Yeah.
person.
How about Jim? You write the email, send it to me. I will forward it to Becky.
Good. That's much. I think you get along with Becky a lot better than I do. So we're not on great speaking terms right now.
All right.
And Jim, you may want to call Home Depot to have them order it because you want this to happen. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think she's got to make the call to Home Depot with the credit card and all of that. And we'll
Yeah,
just,
she needs it's actually a tax exempt ID number she needs to give them.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
So I got
that's
it.
part of the charge we have.
So
with that.
I will send the email to you, Gail, and then we'll just sit back.
Yeah, I'll just forward it saying it, this is approved. Please do it.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Good job,
Okay.
team. Look at this. Exactly 6:45. I love
We
that.
just made it.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. I'll talk to y'all next month.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.